Hello, everybody. You're very welcome to the School of English, Drama and Film on Open Day. Today, you're going to meet Paul Halferty, who is the head of creative writing at UCD. You're going to meet Jorie Lagerwey, who is the head of film at UCD. And you're also going to meet Paul Halferty, who is the head of drama studies at UCD. And finally, starting the talk today is Sharae Deckard, who is an associate professor in English literature at UCD. Over to you, Sharae. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's good to see you today. So I'm an associate professor in world literature, and as Emer said, I'm the head of subject for English. And if you love reading and you're passionate about literature and the way that literature can both reflect the world, but also sometimes change the world and the way that it represents society and culture, then English is the subject for you. You'll have heard a little bit already about pathways, but I just wanted to tell you a little bit about how those work for English. You can study English literature at UCD in many different ways as part of either a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree. So you can do English as part of the 3-year joint honor pathway, where you can combine English with a choice of 24 other subjects, from history to languages to math to music and many more. So you can see that it's incredibly flexible because it can go with all those subjects. Or you can choose one of the pathways from the 4-year BA Humanities degree, whether you do the straight up full on English literature degree, which lets you totally kind of focus in on the subject, or one of our special interdisciplinary school pathways that lets you combine English with other subjects such as English, drama, and film, or English with creative writing, which my colleagues are going to tell you about in just a moment. Or you can study history and antiquity together with literature and do classics, English, and history, as you just heard from Neve. So no matter which degree pathway you choose, you'll get to experience our core modules and have a wide choice of electives and options across historical periods and geographies. We're a really vibrant subject area, one of the largest English lit faculties in the whole country, with a huge range of expertise amongst our academics. Our curriculum ranges all the way from medieval and Renaissance literature up to the most contemporary 21st century writing. And we have particular strengths in Irish studies, British literature, American studies, transnational and global literature, and much more. In your first term of first year, if you were going to join us next year, you would expect to start with one of our core lecture modules, like Reading World Literature, which explores literary representations of world historical phenomena like slavery, colonialism, resource imperialism, and decolonization. So we get to read novels and short fiction and poetry and travel writing from the Caribbean, West Africa, and South Asian with writers like Mohsin Hamid and Ben Okri and Koleka Putuma. Or you could also do at the same time contemporary Irish writing, which has writers like Emma Dabiri and Enright or Kevin Barry, and focus in on how contemporary writing explores Irish literature and culture. In term 2, you would take a course like our core Literature in Crisis, which investigates the key ways that literature has engaged with urgent social, political, and cultural crises throughout history. So you would start with things like medieval plague narratives about the Black Death, which might seem a bit too relevant now, and go all the way up to contemporary novels depicting climate emergency and disaster capitalism. Or you could choose to take the optional lecture module, Literary Genre, which will give you the key analytical skills to build your capacity for close reading and thinking about genre conventions from the points of view of both writers and readers. We also offer 6 exciting general elective modules in first year that are focused on popular genres such as comics, fantasy, dystopian literature, children's literature, horror literature, and more. So you could elect to spend your electives on one of these and do a kind of deep dive into your favorite genre fiction. In the second year of English, our emphasis moves to more breadth of coverage. So you would do core modules like critical theory and reading medieval literature, and then choose from a whole wide array of optional lecture modules from things like the Renaissance to Victorian to modern American literature or 20th century drama. Then in stages 3 and 4, the emphasis becomes more specialized. It's more of those kind of research-led modules. So you get to do intensive 10 credit 2-hour seminar modules, and you'll be able to choose from over 40 different specialty option modules and calibrate your study to those particular periods or genres or regions that you're really interested in, developing deeper expertise in those. For those of you who are doing the BA Humanities 4-year degrees, in stage 4, you will also have the opportunity to do that year-long critical dissertation project that hones and develops your independent research skills as you work one-on-one with a supervisor to produce a long piece of work on your choice of topic. Or alternatively, as you just heard, you could apply for an internship or choose study abroad as part of a languages course, depending on your pathway. There's so much more I could say, but I don't have much time, so I'm going to hand over now to my colleague, Dr. Paul Halferty. He's going to talk about drama studies in the school. And if you have more questions about English, please come on over to the booth afterwards or type your question in the chat now, and we're happy to answer them. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharae. As Sharae said there, my name is Paul Halferty, and I'm the head of drama studies. So I'll begin by saying that there's 3 ways to take drama studies at UCD. The first is the joint major, where you take drama studies alongside another major, a long list of which you'll find in the undergraduate prospectus, or along the pathway, and that's a 3-year degree, or you can take drama in one of the humanities pathways, English drama film or music film and drama. In any case, whichever way that you come into drama studies, what you'll be doing is you'll be thinking about theater, you'll be studying and thinking about theater and performance as a live event, as a performed event, okay? So pedagogically, we approach theater and performance as something that happens between people in spaces. Again, as Sharae, when she was talking about plague literature, maybe it doesn't happen as often as it used to in real places, but that is the focus. So you'll be learning the research and writing skills associated with performance studies and theater studies. But because we think of theater and performance as a live event, as something that happens not on a page, but between bodies in spaces, we also have some practical modules that you'll be able to take throughout your studies. This is part of the degree and the course focus on specific aspects of theater and performance. So in first year through to your 3rd or 4th year, you'll be taking core modules that are focused on, that create a kind of historical spine, beginning with the Greeks and ending in the contemporary moment. But you'll also be able to take specific, more subject-oriented modules, such as modules on Martin McDonough, queer theater and performance, American theater, solo performance, and documentary theater, etc. So specific genres of performance. Alongside these sort of academically focused on specific subjects or areas within theater and performance, you'll also be able to take, as I said, practical modules all the way through your degree. These practical modules will focus again on a specific aspects of theater. So in first year, we have a module called Introduction to Physical Theater, which is really about the body in space. So you don't there's not much talking in those performances. It's really about how bodies move through space. In second year, there are a number of practical modules available. Playwriting, Introduction to Acting, which is a kind of monologue approach to monologue work, and staging performance, which is about devising work. In third year, there is a number of practical modules. Performance project, which is a devising project where you work with your colleagues and a professional director to stage a performance that you create together. And solo performance, where you work with the course leader to create your own solo performance. Beckett and performance, where you engage in how you might direct or how you could direct Beckett plays. And a number of other modules that you can find in the undergraduate prospectus. So really, the thing that I want you to sort of understand about theater and performance studies at UCD is that it's an academic course where you'll be engaging in research and writing and thinking about theater and performance as a live performed medium. You'll be thinking about this historically, as well as engaging in contemporary examples of theater and performance. And you'll also be learning about theater and performance in modules that are focused on doing. This is not a conservatory program, so we don't train you to be an actor or a director or a playwright. However, you will have opportunity to engage in acting, directing, and playwriting in our more practical modules. So we'd like to think of it as a kind of quite a well-rounded academic degree that takes the practical as a way of learning alongside the more academic, traditional, more rigorous library kind of essay writing work that you'll definitely learn how to do here as well. And I guess English drama film. So next we have Associate Professor Dr. Jorie Lagerwey, who's going to speak to you about film studies.
Thanks, Paul. Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for giving us your time this morning. So I'm going to talk very quickly about film studies because I think the most important thing is your questions. And we want to make sure we have plenty of times for those. So as Sharae and Paul have already said, there are two ways to move through the School of English Drama and Film on a 3-year joint major, of which film studies is one of your options, and on the 4-year courses where you combine English drama and film or music, film, and drama if you want to study film. And as you'll notice, our subjects work so well together. We all really do cultural, political, textual analysis, whether it's of literature, of plays, of performances, or of film, television, video games, the internet. So the English drama film pathway is, I think, one of the most fantastic ways to experience our school because you really get to see how all of those things fit together. But if you're interested more specifically in film studies alone, the most important thing to understand about film studies at UCD is that it is way more than film studies. You'll be introduced to the basics of how to read a film, how to read an audiovisual text, how to understand it, what the vocabulary is, how it gets put together and understood in your first year. But right the way through the degree, we are a program that studies all sorts of media. So that includes traditional theatrical cinema, but it also includes all of the media we consume every day, including social media and cat videos and TikTok and television. And so it's a very broad subject where you will absolutely find something that you are passionate about, whether it is really classical cinema or something much more contemporary that you maybe never thought you could study in school. And like I said, your questions are the most important bit, so I don't want to take more of your time. I'll pass it over to my colleague, Paul Perry, to talk to you about creative writing.
Thanks, Jorie, and good morning, everyone. My name's Paul Perry. I'm the head of creative writing here at UCD, and it's my great pleasure to welcome you to this information session. UCD is a great place to study creative writing. Obviously, we have a great tradition at UCD in creative writing, going all the way back to James Joyce in the last century. Our graduates include people like Emma Donoghue, author of Room, and popular novelists like Maeve Binchy. So we have this tradition and heritage at UCD, and the study of creative writing, we want to celebrate that, and we also want to support you in the development of your own creative writing skills. And we've done that most recently by creating a 4-year degree in English with creative writing. And our approach in creative writing at UCD is workshop-based. And by that I mean is you get to write every week and you get feedback from your peers and your professors. And I think that's really important. It's that you're writing every week. We have workshops across genres. So you'll be studying the composition and writing of poetry. You'll be studying fiction writing. You'll be studying creative non-fiction writing. We have electives in travel writing, in YA writing for YA, And we have a really special suite of modules in third year for literary editorship, where you produce, design and publish your own creative writing online journal, which you can check out at the moment. It's called newwordorder.ucd.ie. And in fourth year, you get to write a dissertation, which is an extended piece of creative work. One of the things I'm really proud of in working at UCD is my colleagues in creative writing. They're all professional practicing writers. They all publish their own writing. They're publishing novels, they're publishing short stories, collections of poems, essays in the newspapers. So really, we practice what we preach at UCD, and you'll get to work with practicing writers. Another thing to mention would be that we have a really thriving community of writers at UCD. So we've got a great English and literary society, what we call on campus Litsoc, and they have over 400 members, and they publish their own magazine called Caveat Lector, and they have weekly workshops and monthly performances in the basement in Newman, and they're back on after COVID, and they're a great group that I encourage all my creative writing students to join. We also have connections with institutions around the country, but in particular in Dublin, which is a UNESCO City of Literature. So we bring our students into the Museum of Literature Ireland, the Molly. We bring them to readings at Poetry Ireland and the Irish Writers' Centre. We really try to make our students at undergraduate level part of the community of writers that we have at UCD, which include master's students who go on to publish novels and win awards. You'll be invited as a creative writing student at UCD to the many readings we have on campus, on Zoom, the master classes, the workshops. We bring agents and publishers in to talk to you on a regular basis. So one of the very special things I mentioned was the staff, but actually the students really make up the kind of the really special quality of our creative writing program. The students that come in to study English with creative writing are motivated. They have a great deal of potential. And, as Stanley Kunitz once said, a great American poet, that the first great task of the writer, the task of the imagination, is to create the self that will write the poems, stories, and novels. So as an educator, myself and my colleagues, we almost see it as our duty to contribute to that task in as supportive way as possible. So I want you, our students, to be as well-rounded, aware of the literary heritage that surrounds and nourishes you. And going forward, I want you to be acutely mindful of the ability to rewrite the narrative, not only of your own characters, but of your own lives too. So I hope we'll get to welcome you to UCD next September, and I look forward to answering your questions. And those questions can come through the chat, and we'll also see you at the virtual booth right after this session. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. The Q&A button has been on fire, so I'm going to give you each a few questions, if that's okay. I might start with you, Sharae. Gronya is wondering, do students study many books that have been translated from foreign languages into the English language?
It's not a huge amount, but on many of the courses that I personally teach on world literature, I do feature both Anglophone texts from other parts of the world, such as India, Africa, the Caribbean, et cetera, but also some literature in translation, translated into English. So if you take courses that particularly focus on global or world literature, and you choose some of those option modules, you will read some literature in translation, yes.
And Sharae, is it possible to study English part-time?
There is a part-time English degree, but that is mostly organized, the joint honors part-time degree, around evening classes. So you would have to look specifically into the requirements for that, because it's structured differently. It's more difficult to do the BA Humanities or the joint majors full-time during the day.
And finally, Sharae, there's a few people asking about following a career in journalism. What sort of advice would you give to people like that, who are interested in English and English literature and film studies? What do you think they should do?
Well, one thing that we always say is that you can always go on to do a specific master's after doing your undergrad degree in English and film, creative writing. All of these have a lot of useful translation into journalism careers. But one of the important things you can do is actually extracurricular. You should join the student papers and write for them. You should write for blogs. You should write for zines and start building up that experience of doing student journalism as part of your UCD career and joining the student societies, and that will complement the classes that you're doing. And then if you want to go on later to do a postgraduate specialization, you'll be really well set up to do it.
Thank you, Sharae. To Paul Halferty next. Aisling and Anya and a few others are wondering about field trips. Do students get to see a lot of plays? Do they get to see behind the scenes? What are the field trips like?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking it. Yeah, so especially under regular circumstances, so i.e. not the pandemic, we regularly organize field trips to the theater, and assessments are based on those trips. So you'll literally be going to in the first year example, the theatrical event, you go to see a play and your midterm assessment is based on an analysis of that play. And really throughout your first, second, third, and potentially fourth year, in many of your modules, there will be theater going that is a part of the curriculum.
That's great. Thank you very much, Paul. A couple of people also wondering, are the acting modules mandatory?
No, they're not. In fact, the only module, well, it depends on which structure you're in, which path you take. But for the most part, the only compulsory modules are the core modules, and then you have a range of elective and option modules where that you must take, but they're not specified in the same way.
Jorie, to you next. I have Una asking about any suggestions for people who want to work maybe more behind the scenes in film and media. What advice would you give them in terms of their selections and their choices?
I would say if you're interested in the media industries, do your film studies degree. You will learn about the huge array of jobs that exist, that it's really hard to know without someone telling you what all those jobs are. You'll meet people working in all of those jobs. We have lots of guest speakers. We, in fact, have a first-year module that is all devoted to local industry professionals coming in and telling you about their work. And we do have industry studies type modules throughout the degree. And you can also take electives in drama and creative writing. If screenwriting is your particular interest, those exist. And I would absolutely recommend Film Soc. That is where you will find your fellow travelers and the folks who want to make things, and the place where you'll make connections that if you do end up in the industry, you will be using those connections and working with the friends you meet in Film Soc and in film studies at UCD for the rest of your career.
That's great, Jorie. And I've Alba asking, when studying film studies as part of the joint honours, are there any modules relating to animated movies or indeed animation itself? And added on to that, people are asking about the variety of practical versus more traditional modules.
There is a module on animation. My colleague Harvey O'Brien specializes in animated films. And so that's a level 3 seminar option that you can choose. And it's important to know that we are not a production program. You will not be making films. You will not be handling cameras. You may be asked as part of your assessments to use your phones, to use your friends, to use the things you already know how to do to make an assignment instead of writing an essay. In my own modules, for example, students almost always have a choice. You can write an essay or you can present your information to me in whatever mode you feel comfortable with. And so sometimes people will make films or audio presentations for those. But we are not a production program. And so again, I'd point you toward Film Soc, where they do make films and then they come and show us the amazing things that they've made. And we do sometimes talk about students' films in our classes because they're making wonderful things, but in their own time, doing the sort of extracurriculars that Sharae mentioned.
And Flor is asking what the differences are between English literature and English with creative writing.
Well, the clue is in the title. English with creative writing is it's the study of a large part of your study will be English literature, but it's supplemented by creative writing modules or creative writing classes. So whereas your friends or peers who are doing English literature exclusively will only be able to take electives in creative writing. If you're taking English with creative writing, the creative writing modules will be core or mandatory to your progression in the degree. So you'll be taking a lot more creative writing. I mean, one thing to note is that colleagues in English literature are embedding creative assessment into their literature modules, which I think is an exciting development. But certainly, if you're interested in doing more creative work than critical work, the English with creative writing is a good option, I think.
Thank you very much, Paul. And thank you to Paul Halferty as well, Jorie Lagerwey and Sharae Deckard for joining us today. And as Sharae mentioned earlier, please pop over to the booth in the virtual O'Reilly Hall if you have any further questions about studying English, drama or film and creative writing at UCD. Thank you, everybody.